Once upon a time, a huge surprise waited deep in the ocean. It is a door to another world opening right at the bottom of the sea. But instead of friendly visitors, giant monsters called Kaijus started to come out, looking for trouble. People everywhere were scared because nothing they had could stop these massive creatures. To save everyone, countries around the world decided to work together. They built huge robots called Jaegers, so big that they made buildings look small. But these robots were so powerful one person couldn't handle them. So, they came up with a buddy system where two pilots could share the job, connected by their thoughts and memories. This special connection helped them control the Jaegers as one. And guess what? It started to work. The robot pilots became real-life superheroes, winning battles against the monsters. In this story, we meet Raleigh and his brother, Yancy, who are about to fight a very scary monster called Knifehead. They climb into their robot, Gypsy Danger, wearing their superhero suits, ready for action. They were supposed to stay safe at home base, but they couldn't sit back when they knew people needed help. So off they went, into the stormy night, to face the monster. As the giant kaiju appeared, ready to attack innocent people, Gypsy Danger stood tall, ready to save the day. The brothers worked together, throwing punches and using their robot's special weapon, a plasma cannon, to fight the monster. It was an epic battle, but then the monster did something unexpected. It jumped out of the water and attacked Gypsy Danger, hurting the robot badly and taking Yancy away from Raleigh. Raleigh, now alone, had to find the strength to keep fighting. And he did. He managed to defeat the monster, but it was a sad victory because he lost his brother. He safely brought Gypsy Danger back to shore, where he was rescued by a kind man and his grandson. 5 years passed, and things weren't going well. The monsters were winning more battles, and the leaders of the world thought maybe building giant walls would be better than using robots. But not everyone gave up on the Jaegers, especially not the boss of the robot program, Marshall Stacker and Raleigh, who had stopped being a pilot. When another monster broke through a wall easily, people realized the robots were still needed. That's when Marshall Stacker decided to bring Raleigh back to pilot again. Raleigh wasn't sure at first, remembering his brother, but the Marshal made him see that fighting in a Jaeger was where he could make a real difference. Raleigh then went to Hong Kong, where he met Mako, the Marshal's adopted daughter, who wasn't sure about him at first. Here, we meet some incredible heroes. From China, there's the Crimson Typhoon, controlled by triplet pilots famous for their powerful teamwork. Then, there's Cherno Alpha, a tough robot from Russia that's as strong as they come. We also meet Chuck and his dad, Hansen, who pilot the Eureka Striker. They're superstars in this world, with an impressive record of defeating 11 monsters. The boss of the team, Marshall, has a big plan. He wants to use a nuclear bomb to close the monster's door at the bottom of the sea, forever. To do this, they'll need the help of all the robot pilots to protect the bomb as it's delivered to the door. There are two smart scientists in the team, Herman and Newton. Herman is all about physics, and he's figured out that the monsters are coming faster and in bigger numbers. He thinks, if they act fast, they can close the monster door for good with the bomb. Newton, who knows a lot about monsters, isn't so sure. He believes they need to learn more about the monsters first, thinking they might be clones, because they all share the same DNA. He wants to use a special technology to connect his mind with the monsters to understand them better. But Marshall goes with Herman's idea, needing a quick solution. Then there's a moment between Raleigh, our main hero, and Mako, another pilot. Mako's not sure Raleigh makes the best decisions, thinking he's a bit too risky. Raleigh listens, thinking about his brother and how he wants to do better. Later, Mako feels bad for being so straightforward, especially after seeing Raleigh and being struck by his appearance. When looking for a new co-pilot, Raleigh beats all the candidates easily. He notices Mako doesn't seem impressed and convinces Marshall to let her try out. They end up being a perfect match, moving in sync, but Marshall still says no to Mako joining the fight. Meanwhile, Newton, the scientist, does something risky. He connects his mind to a monster's, hoping to learn their secrets. It's a dangerous move, but it works. He discovers the monsters are created by aliens. It's a close call, but Herman saves him just in time. After a lot of thinking, Marshall changes his mind and lets Mako pilot the giant robot with Raleigh. Raleigh is thrilled, knowing Mako is the right choice for a co-pilot. Now, Raleigh and Mako began a special process called drifting. This magical link let them share memories. But things got a bit tricky. Raleigh started seeing visions of his brother, who was no longer with them, and Mako remembered a scary time when a monster took her parents away. These memories were so strong that they accidentally made their robot, called a Jaeger, almost use a very powerful weapon by mistake. Meanwhile, a smart man named Newton discovered something huge. He found out that the monsters, called Kaijus, were actually tools used by space aliens wanting to take over planets. To learn more, Newton needed another monster brain, so he was sent to meet Hannibal, a guy who secretly sells monster parts. Back with our heroes, things got even more intense. The team found out that two super scary kaijus were coming to cause trouble. The boss, Marshall, decided who would go fight them. Unfortunately, Raleigh and Mako were told to wait and watch this time, but the battle didn't go as planned. The Crimson Typhoon and Cherno Alpha, two other brave robots, faced the kaijus in a fierce fight by the ocean. It was a tough battle, with lots of moves and counter-moves, but the kaijus were very strong. They managed to defeat the Crimson Typhoon and Cherno Alpha, leaving everyone in shock. Just when things looked bad, the Australian team jumped into the fight with their robot, Eureka Striker, trying to save the day. But then, another kaiju used a special power to turn off all the machines and lights in the city, making it really hard to fight back. That's when Marshall knew he had to send in Raleigh and Mako. Their robot was special because it didn't need electricity in the same way, so they could still fight. At the same time, Newton found himself in danger because the kaijus knew he had connected with their brain, and now they were after him. In a brave move, the Australian pilot, Hansen, and his son tried to distract the kaiju with flares, but it only made the monster angrier. It was a scary moment, but they were determined to protect the city and give everyone a chance to escape. Here, our hero robot named Gypsy Danger showed up just in time to save the day. Gypsy Danger, a giant robot controlled by Raleigh and Mako, was quick and smart. It surprised a big scary monster named Leatherback, dodging its attacks and fighting back with powerful punches. They even used a special rocket in their elbow to push the monster away. Leatherback wasn't easy to beat, but Gypsy Danger was ready. They used a huge cannon to keep shooting at Leatherback until the monster couldn't fight anymore and fell down, defeated. But the adventure wasn't over yet. Another monster, Otachi, was causing trouble. Gypsy Danger wasn't just going to stand by. Raleigh and Mako found a big ship and used it like a giant sword to fight Otachi. It was an epic battle. Otachi tried to fight back with acid and even flew into the sky with Gypsy Danger, but our heroes had a secret weapon. They pulled out a sword and cut Otachi in half, saving the day as they fell back down to Earth, landing safely. Everyone at the headquarters was so happy and cheered for Raleigh and Mako. They were true heroes. Meanwhile, Newton, a smart scientist, found out something amazing. He discovered a monster was going to have a baby, and they could use the baby monster's brain to learn more secrets about the monsters. With his friend Herman's help, they connected their minds to the baby monster's brain and learned important information about the monster's door at the bottom of the sea. But they found out their plan to close the door wouldn't work without a monster's DNA. They had to come up with a new plan fast because the final mission was about to start. Stacker, the brave leader, decided he would pilot the robot himself because his friend Hansen was hurt. It was a sad goodbye, knowing it might be the last mission. As the robots went deep into the ocean, they found it was hard to see, and two big monsters were guarding the door. But then, the scientists rushed in with urgent news. They needed a monster to trick the door into opening. It was a new twist in their plan, and everyone had to think fast to save the world. So, just when the team thought they had figured everything out, a new, even bigger monster showed up. This one was called Slattern, and it was the biggest of them all, a Category 5 kaiju. Raleigh and Mako, our brave robot pilots, rushed to help their friend but were quickly attacked by another monster, Scunner. They managed to fight back, but then another monster, Raiju, surprised them and damaged their robot. Instead of running away, Raleigh and Mako used their robot's sword to cleverly defeat Raiju, using the monster's own attack against it. But then, Slattern, the biggest monster, pushed their robot away from their main goal, the underwater door to the monster's world. As they battled, the team's leader, Marshall, came up with a brave plan. He decided to use himself as a bomb to make a clear path for Raleigh and Mako to close the door with their robot's special power. When he set off the explosion, it created a huge wave, but it also gave Raleigh and Mako a chance to get to the door. Surprisingly, Slattern was still around after the explosion and tried to stop them. Raleigh and Mako fought hard, using their robot to defeat Slattern once and for all. They carried the monster's body to the door to trick it into opening, because the door only opened for the monsters. As they got close to closing the door, Mako ran out of air and passed out. Raleigh quickly put her in a safe pod and sent her away to safety. Then, he set the robot to explode in 60 seconds, giving himself just enough time to escape in another pod. The robot fell into the monster's base and exploded, closing the door and stopping the monsters from coming to our world. Raleigh and Mako both made it back safely, and everyone cheered for their victory. They had saved the world together and shared a special moment as the rescue team arrived. If you enjoyed our story, remember to like and subscribe. I can't wait to share more stories with you next time.